The California judge who sentenced Stanford student-athlete Brock Turner to 6 months in jail for the sexual assault of an unconscious woman on campus was cleared of misconduct on Monday. According to the California Commission of Judicial Performance, there is no evidence that Judge Aaron Persky displayed bias in his treatment of Brock Turner. Turner was released from jail in September after serving only 3 months and returned to his native Ohio, where he remains on probation for 3 years and is a registered sex offender for life. I just want to remind everyone, his father, Dan Turner, wrote a letter arguing that his son should receive probation, not jail time, where he said his life will never be the one that he dreamed about and worked so hard to achieve. That is a steep price to pay for 20 minutes of action out of his 20-plus years of life. Will Kane is back with us now. Stephen A., what's your reaction to that?
I think this decision is a travesty. I think this judge should have been harshly penalized. I know that he removed himself from criminal cases and went to civil courts. I think that doesn't cut the mustard. I think that when you consider the fact that this guy in March was convicted, this kid was convicted of 3 felony counts: assault with intent to commit rape of an unconscious person, sexual penetration of an unconscious person, and sexual penetration of an intoxicated person. You had 2 passerbys that held him down until the authorities came. He was found guilty. The prosecutor had asked for 6 years imprisonment. This dude gets 6 months, 3 months probation. Are you kidding me? And I also think that it highlights a discrepancy in our society, because I'm going to put it out there. I don't know too many black folks that would get off for something like this. Don't get me started. This is unbelievable to me. I mean, you are raping not rape, sexual assault, because it's the state of California and there's a higher standard for rape, even though legislation has been passed to sort of address that issue. The point is, you have been found guilty of 3 felony counts of sexual assault, and you essentially spent 3 months in jail. Then you got the father who talks to the judge, and his last sentence is, that is a steep price to pay for 20 minutes of action out of his 20-plus years. Well, I know people who've been killed inside of 2 minutes. I know people who've been assaulted inside of a minute. I know people who have struggled in less than 20 minutes, and as a result, somebody's life was taken away from them because they were incarcerated for years and years and years. This kid gets months, and the judge somehow, they find nothing wrong with this? I think this is egregious. I think everybody should stand up and speak out about it. I think Capitol Hill needs to revisit it. Something needs to happen, civil case, something. This judge needs to be dealt with, and I don't give a damn what anybody says. I'm going to say it again. If this was a black dude, I don't think this would we'd be talking about this, because this behind would have been in jail. He certainly wouldn't be out in 3 months.
I just want to add one thing to this. And frequently when men discuss this issue of sexual assault on television, you'll hear them say, hey, I have a mother, I have a sister, I have a daughter, and it's like, why should you need that to know what's right and wrong? So I want to preface what I'm going to say by saying that. But I have 3 daughters. And if this happened to one of my daughters, and the father of the guy who did it said what he said,
he wouldn't have made it out the courtroom.
He and I have a serious problem, a serious and immediate problem. He's going to have a problem with me. And that's the only thing I want to say about this.
Yeah, I want to also preface it, Max, with this. I think these issues, as they always do when we have sensitive conversations, get reduced into, oh, you must be on the pro-sexual assault camp, or you're on the anti-sexual assault camp. Please, please, as though those positions exist. The problem is this, first of all, was the sentence too light? Stephen A., you forwarded an argument suggesting that the sentence was too light. Yes. I don't know. And my position is I would not pass judgment on that. And I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah, I need to hear this.
But the second position you take, which is the more egregious position you take, is that the judge somehow needs to be dealt with and has done something incredibly wrong. This judge, first of all, was a prosecutor in this county, specializing in violent sexual predators. His decision in this case followed the probation officer's recommendation of what the sentence should be. Third, it was given to a California commission to review to see if there was any kind of bias, including gender bias, racial bias, Stanford bias, any of these kinds of bias in his decision. This commission absolved him. Why would they do that? Because this judge did something. Whether or not I agree with it, we'll come back to that in a moment, whether or not I agree with it, he did something in accordance with the law. If you have a problem with the law, address the law. That's why we have legislatures. That's why we vote on things. But this judge did not do something egregious here. His history and his path to this decision suggest that. He gave you the reasons, by the way, in his decision about why he arrived at this sentence. You can disagree with them, but he gave them. And this is the important point. Justice is by its very nature individualistic. It is about specifics. It is about human beings, specific instances, and specific fact sets. Justice, by its very definition, can't be treated as a broad swath by people's race, their gender, these things. You can talk about social justice, you can talk about other things, which are their own concepts, but you have to understand, they are in direct contrast and direct tension with justice. I don't know the facts the way this judge knows them. I wasn't in this courtroom throughout the way this judge knows. His opinion here, I defer to on the sentence.
With all due respect, what I would say to you, and I don't mean it towards you personally, I get where you're coming from, I respect your position. It's a hell of a lot easier for you to say that as a white person. As a black person, when you talk about justice being individualistic and individual decisions impacting folks, let me tell you as a black man, on behalf of Black America, put that damn camera on me. On behalf of Black America, there's a whole bunch of decisions made by individuals that have dramatically, damaged, if not flat out eviscerated communities in our nation. And we all know I'm telling the truth in that regard. That's number one. Number two, when you talk about this committee, demographically, do you know what the makeup of that committee was?
I do not. Do you?
Exactly. I do not. So my point is this, but I can guess. And I'm
that would be irresponsible.
No. Oh, no, it's not irresponsible.
For you to guess?
Let me tell you why it's not irresponsible. Because I have a problem with the decision. So
you don't back engineer that.
Let me finish. I'm asking. I'm not accusing. I'm saying to you, I suspect. I'm not accusing, like I'm not pretending to definitively know. That would be irresponsible. For me to deduce that a guy can be convicted on 3 felony sexual assault counts that calls for anywhere from 6 to 10 years in prison, and he gets
He could have got 14 maximum. The prosecution thought 6 was appropriate.
He could have gotten 14. The prosecution thought 6 was appropriate. And instead of 6 years, he got 6 months with a lighter sentence that got reduced to 3 months. And then you have a father on the record quoted as saying that is a steep price to pay, sexually assaulting somebody and being sentenced to prison. That is a steep price to pay for 20 minutes of actions out of 20 plus years of one's life. Everything you just said, it sounds very pragmatic. Obviously, let me finish. It's obviously well thought of, intellectual, very pragmatic. But when you take the human element into consideration, I'm saying to you, as a father of daughters, this man has daughters. I'm telling you right now, 4 older sisters, 8 nieces. When you talk, I'm not accusing you of being insensitive. I'm saying this ruling, regardless of his prosecutorial background, there is no justification for this in my mind.
Excuse me, Max.
In my mind.
For one moment.
Sure.
I completely defer to the emotional response that you have in regards to what you feel towards the other father. You have 2 daughters, as do you as well. And I would as well. But there is a reason. Emotion is supposed to be out of the courtroom. I'm not defending Brock. No, hold on. Sure. I'm not defending Brock Turner. I'm not defending his father.
I'm not accusing you of that.
And truthfully, I'm not even defending this sentence. What I'm defending is the concept of justice. Stephen A., when you point out that race has in the past ignored individual circumstances and taken broad things like race to the detriment of black people in this country, do you think I'm going to disagree with you?
Of course not.
So I'm arguing to you that Lady Justice wears a blindfold for a reason. And because it's been taken off in the past...
But it hasn't worn a blindfold.
She didn't wear a blindfold.
It hasn't worn a blindfold.
Excuse me. Because she's been taken off in the past doesn't mean you take it off again. You don't correct injustices from the past by making more in the future.
Where I take offense at your words is that you're implying that I'm saying take the blind, put the blinders on again. That's not what I'm saying here.
The blinders stay on.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying to you is this. If there were a question about the man's guilt or innocence, I have no issue with the ruling because, somebody may have found it innocent. The issue in question here is that the man has been convicted of 3 felony counts. Who gets 3 months in prison for 3 felony counts?
That doesn't make any sense. A quick break, and we're gonna come right back to this. And
3 felony counts, 3 months.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Max, we'll pick it up right with you. More First Take after the break. Stay here. We'll continue the discussion on the Brock Turner case. Welcome back into First Take. We are going to pick up where we left off here. Max, I wanted you to jump in on the Brock Turner case.
First, I want to say that the points that you're making will need to be made, particularly when a topic like this, a very emotional topic comes up where it becomes, as you've mentioned in the past, an outrage competition. And if you are seen as making a point about the law, and you're an attorney, you have a legal background, it's seen as you're not outraged enough. And from conversations with you on and off the air, I know that you are completely outraged about sexual assault, which I would hope people would take for granted.
I appreciate that.
I want to say that.
I do.
And I agree with him. I agree.
About the issue, and justice should be blind, about the issue of race, Stephen A., that you bring up and how it might have an impact on this, and why people of color in this country, particularly African Americans, might be suspicious if they see a white person get off with what they feel without looking too much at the details, or maybe even with a lenient sentence. That suspicion is founded in the fact that justice is supposed to be blind, but in fact, judicial outcomes in many, many areas throughout our history and continuing today are greatly affected by race. And so that is a legitimate, I think, concern here.
And that is a concern, I think, I don't know if we've discussed it on this show, but that I share. So if the point is that African Americans have in this country been subjected to, for example, greater, more strenuous sentencing than white people have in the past, it's a fact, it's true, it's not absolved, it's not corrected by, then in turn finding a situation with a white defendant and making sure you over-punish or get a strenuous punishment. You don't fix it that way. Ladies, justice has to remain blindfolded, justice has to remain blind. My biggest point is this: don't gloss over specifics, don't gloss over facts. You said several times, 3 felony counts of sexual assault. The details are important, and the details offset it against other cases you could read about and compare it to, perhaps where the defendant was black. But you have to know the details of every individual case to find out if justice was served, because justice is individual. And last point, my biggest pushback is this: it's never served over social media. It's never served via outrage. Justice is only served through focus on specifics and largely done in the courtroom.
Can I ask one question, and then Stephen A., you have it the rest of the way? Just as a woman, do you guys feel that serving 3 months in jail is enough for those acts?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Feel is the operative word.
I'm just wondering, do you feel that?
And I do want to point out.
Just one more thing, one other question,
Yes,
and then I'm
no
staying
to your
out of it
question,
because I want to hear. Okay, so we don't feel that's appropriate. My other question I want to ask: had he not been from Stanford, had he not been white, do we think he would have gotten the same 3 months in prison?
Probably not, Molly. Yes,
Okay.
probably not.
Thank
I know
you.
that African Americans get on
That's all I
average
wanted
sentenced
to know.
20% more longer sentences.
Let me tell you something. I echo what Max said about you, and just for the purposes of this show, everybody understands this. It's called First Take for a reason. We don't run from a damn thing. We never have, we never will. And when you hear Will Kane come on this show, or Max Kellerman come on this show, being here with me every day, and they take positions that they take, maybe diametrically opposed to me from time to time, I invite it. So understand, we may disagree, but at the end of the day, anybody that's coming after you for what you said, they're going to have to come after me too, because I wanted you to say what you have to say, because that's how we evolve as a society, when we're willing to hear where everybody's perspective is coming from, and we go from there. Now let me get back to you. You talk about outrage, in this case, social media or beyond or whatever. I think you're smart enough and educated enough to know that outrage, particularly on the part of the African American community, has gotten justice done. Because when people were passé and were not outraged and were tepid and were quiet and were a bit passive, the same old stuff would take place throughout history. History has changed. Metamorphosis has kicked in. Change has arrived because of outrage. From pre-civil rights days even to now, that's number one. Number two, let's get specific. We talk about this kid here, Brock Turner. And by the way, put his face up on TV. Let's see that guy. He was convicted of 3 felony counts of sexual assault. Could you put his face up? That's him. That's who he is. Just so everybody knows he is. Don't even get to walk the streets. We're going to put an athlete up in there. Anybody does something wrong. Put the judge up there too. Put his face up in there. That's the guy that let him off for 3 months, 6 months in jail, 3 months instead of 6 years. Put his face up there too. Now, last point. Brock Turner, convicted of 3 felony counts. OJ got off for murder. What'd they do? Terrorist threats and kidnapping, he doing 30 years. We all know it's because they missed out on the murder conviction. They piggybacked off of that and got him in November. We gonna get you no matter what, okay? Michael Vick, well, dogfighting scandal, Peter and everybody else, Humane Society, everybody up in arms. Where are they now? You have a white 20-year-old kid from Stanford who was convicted of 3 felony counts of sexual assault, stopped by 2 patrons, held for the police, found guilty. This dude gets just 3 months in jail. Where all the women?
I want to react to that.
They're there. They're trying to recall this judge. This story is not suffering from a lack of outrage.
I want to react to that quickly. These public cases become symbolic, I think, especially to people of color in this country. And the argument that says, wait, we need to weigh the evidence in this case individually misses the emotion of the use of the case as symbolism, even when there is an injustice carried out by using a specific case as symbolic. And the social media outrage, the democratization of media is good in certain ways, and when it becomes a force for a bad kind of populism, it becomes dangerous and should be commented upon by the Fourth Estate, which is what we are here doing.
I give you the last word. All I'm going to say is that I didn't mean to imply that the women's groups weren't out there. I'm saying that the noise for others doesn't appear to be as loud for this as it was for others in the past. That's all I meant.
My last word is symbols are simple. Emotions run roughshod over individual facts, and it's my job, I feel like, when I come here to address these things directly and specifically. That's what I try to do. Not defend this guy, and to not even this judge.
Of course.
Understood.
Appreciate the conversation. Glad
Understood.
we all agree that 3 months was not enough, and it wouldn't have been the same for other races. Well, thank you so much for being with us. More First Take after the break. Stay here.